Hello and welcome to our flip video lesson, Another Land, lesson 7.06. Lesson 7.06 details Human Odyssey reading pages 240 to 247, your student guide workbook pages 220 to 222, but a quick note, the questions on 221, questions on page 221 will be included in lesson 7.08. Your OMS assignment, there's no assessment for this lesson. And then about the topic, Early Greek Civilization. Today's learning lesson objectives. Analyze maps to identify the climate and landforms of Greece. Explain the geographic reasons for the development of independent city-states in Greece. Identify on a map the Peloponnese, Mediterranean Sea, Aegean Sea, Ionian Sea, and Crete. Describe farming in ancient Greece. And then describe the ways in which the Greeks relied on and used the sea. And as always, make sure that you are completing your readings for this flip video lesson. It will tie everything in and everything together. Lesson Introduction, Another Land. Unlike some of the other early civilizations, the ancient Greeks had no fertile river valleys that helped farmers grow a surplus of grain. Thin, poor soil covered the rugged hills and mountains of the Greek mainland and its far-flung islands. With such a scarcity of fertile land, how did the Greeks manage to build one of the most remarkable civilizations the world has ever known? And remember that idea of surplus, that surplus of food, that's one of the main characteristics of a civilization, because without a surplus of food, obviously people can't survive. So interesting to learn how the Greeks did so. So early Greek civilizations. Here's a map. I believe it's on page 242, I think, in your reading book, your Human Odyssey reading book. It's going to be important for you to understand where we're talking about so you can fully understand this lesson. So Peloponnese, here's the Peloponnesian Peninsula down here. And then we've got the Mediterranean Sea is right here. The Aegean Sea is here. The Ionian Sea is here. So you can see this area was surrounded by water, obviously, but there was no major river running through it like we've had in past civilizations, right? In ancient China, in the Indus River Valley, Mesopotamia, Sumer, we had those major rivers flowing through. Here in the ancient Greek civilizations, we don't, and the landscape is much different. Let's see, Crete is down here. Athens is right here. Sparta is right here. And then Corinth is right here, okay? So these major civilizations developed, but you can see they did develop along the seaway, so they were kind of on the edge of the land, so there was some water there, but again, there was not that access to the river valley, that flooding and all of that good stuff that comes with the river valley. All right, so your student guide questions, turn to page 222. Again, we are not going to do the questions on page 221. We're going to do those in a future lesson, so you can skip over that small section there. Turn to page 222. The ancient Greeks made some contributions that have influenced the United States and many other nations. What are the contributions? So we've got our form of government, which is super cool when we start learning about governments. We've got many of the words we use, some of the literature we read, images and themes in our art, our ideas about freedom, and the value of the individual. So all of those came from ancient Greece. We're going to learn about those in future lessons, but we have to kind of keep that in mind. A lot of what we have in America today came from these ancient civilizations. Question number 2. Civilization was flourishing on the island of Crete as early as 3000 BC. Historians call this civilization Minoan after King Minos. And over here are some of the tools that they used for farming. Question number 3. Why was civilization slow to develop on the Peloponnesian Peninsula? Farming the rocky land was difficult. There were no predictable flooding rivers, no broad fertile plains. It took a while for early inhabitants to cultivate more food than they needed. So inhabitants means the people who live there, and cultivate means to make or to grow. So it took them a while to learn how to do that, to get that surplus. Question number 4. Describe farming in ancient Greece. The difficulties, major crops, livestock, and climate. Along the fertile coast of the Peloponnesian Peninsula, farmers sowed wheat and barley on their meager plots. Meager means small. Grapevines and olive trees did well in the thin, stony soil during the hot, dry summers, so the Greeks depended on grain, grapes, and olives, which that's extremely different from the other crops that we've had in other civilizations. The hillsides made good grazing land for sheep and goats, which provided milk, cheese, and a little meat, and wool for clothing. So you can see here, the ancient Greeks' diet of food was definitely much different from the other civilizations that we have studied. Question number 5. The first civilization to develop on the mainland of Greece is called Mycenaean. Why did this civilization pass away? It passed away because of war, invasion, and internal strife, meaning internal fighting. Okay, and as we've learned from many civilizations, this constant fighting, this constant battle for land created a lot of demise. Question number 6. Describe the city-states of ancient Greece. Small city-states such as Athens, Sparta, and Corinth grew up on the mainland, while others, such as Syracuse, developed on the islands in the Mediterranean Sea. Just to back up there, that word mainland means the main part of the country. The islands are the parts that are separated or off. Each city-state, which was surrounded by fields for crops and herds, was separate and ruled itself. At first, the people in these city-states did not think of themselves as one nation, but as citizens of the city-state in which they lived. Over time, they came to see themselves as one people because they shared the same language and beliefs, worshiped the same gods, and had the same stories and heroes. Question number 7. Why was the sea important to the Greeks? The Aegean, Ionian, and Mediterranean seas became all-important highways for trade and travel. Fishermen, merchants, sailors, even pirates went to sea for a living. Small ships carried goods and ideas back and forth. And again, just a quick reminder, your reading pages are pages 240 to 247. Please make sure that you do have those readings complete before you don't have an assessment for this lesson, but make sure you do have those readings complete just for a full understanding as we move forward with this unit. Important vocabulary words to understand. Peninsula is a piece of land that is almost entirely surrounded by water, but is connected to the mainland on one side, kind of like if you think of Florida, how Florida jets off. Strife is an angry or bitter disagreement over fundamental issues or conflicts. A city-state is a city that, with its surroundings, territories, forms an independent state. And then a merchant is anyone who is involved in business or trade. We typically think of merchants as store owners, places we can go to purchase things. And here we come to our quote section. I prefer the errors of enthusiasm to the indifference of wisdom. It's a good thought for today, and that was said by Anatole France. Thanks so much for joining me today. Remember our 8 steps to having a great day. Believe in yourself, stay strong, never give up, be grateful, work hard, stay humble, be kind, and keep smiling. Have a fantastic day.